Доброго дня.
Здравствуйте. Я правильно понимаю, что у нас уже есть запись?
Да, да.
То есть мы можем начинать, в принципе, Вика, как вы считаете?
Давайте начинать. Сейчас, по ходу, уже все начнут подключаться. Ну, а кто не сможет, прослушает в записи. Тогда вам удачи, Инна.
Спасибо, Виктория. Thank you guys for coming online. Glad to see you all here. And let us start with our topic, motivational applications for career development. Today I'm going to give you two writing tools that will help you to complete your application forms for job, for education, and different other purposes. We will consider some application forms for motivation and some forms for job when you accompany your CV with covering letter. Here is the content of our lecture. We will start with motivational applications, and then I will give you these two techniques I'm talking about, STAR technique or STAR approach, or it can be called STAR tool, writing tool, and Minter pyramid principle that I will show you on some examples. And the last part of the lecture will be devoted to covering letters. As I already seen, today there are some guests that took part in our contest of motivational applications. First, I will explain why did I suggest this theme for our educational platform. You know, I guess many of you know that our company, Nifolk LLC, is organizing conferences. And a few years ago, we also initiated a contest of motivational applications for students, for PhD students and teachers. And during those two contests, I will remind you that the first one, the theme of the first one was why have I majored in oil and gas, and the second one was how my profession will influence oil and gas industry. During these two contests, we received hundreds of applications, and I came to the conclusion that successful ones were used some special techniques. I'm not sure that the winners used that techniques and that tools consciously. Maybe they just have a good feeling of structure, good feeling of text structure. But that was very important for becoming a winner for them. Maybe I will, I will explain you who am I and why did I choose this topic for you, because many of you know me as the chief editor at Nifolk, and with our monthly analytical reports, Oil and Gas of Ukraine and some others. But my background also includes more than 5 years in human resource departments, and I conducted over 100 interviews and considered a huge number of applications. So that's why I decided to share my experience according to this background with you. So first, let us start with the motivation letter and when you can be asked to prepare this. The situation when you are applying for university course, when you're applying for scholarship, for internship, for a contest, for professional contest, and for a job. And as you can see, maybe once in a lifetime, you will have to prepare this kind of letter, motivation letter. And usually it's even often you have to do this. So, and the technique that I'm going to share with you is called STAR technique or STAR approach. As you can see, this is an abbreviation of 4 words: situation, task, action, result. First, I found this technique at the University of Sheffield resources. It's very good resources, very helpful. And this is very useful technique that can be used not only for motivational letters, but also during job interviews. Then you are answering motivational questions. So, by the way, our attendees who took part in our contest, have you heard about STAR technique? Someone of you? You can write or maybe say it aloud if yes or no. Yeah, let's look at it. Let's look at the parts of this technique, of this approach. Each of these 4 words means a structural part of your text, of your answer. It can be an abstract, it can be just one idea that describes your situation. Situation is something that describes your background. It gives to the reader the context of what is going on, or what was in your professional life. So you have in this part of your answer, of your text, provide some brief details about situation that you are in or you were in later, previously. And you should use, you should describe, your competencies, that reader can understand the context of the example. The next part is task. That is something that you should tell about your objective, about your purpose that you have to or had during the situation, the previous situation. Action, it means you have to describe something that you did or something that you are going to do with the given situation, and how you are going to reach your aim. And finally, the result. In this part, you're telling about the outcome or about the expected outcome. For example, what did you learn? What did you gain from the situation? How did you resolve it? Let's look at the example of a letter that we received for the contest. Ali gave me a permission to show it to you, so I will do it. This is a letter of a winner of the contest, and it has pretty good structure. I'm not sure that Ali used right this technique, but maybe unconsciously the text was built according to this principle. And I will show you how it looks like. In the first part, it is gray. This is a situation part that describes a contest. Ali writes that he studies oil and gas at the university. He's describing his research, and this is a contest. This part that is highlighted in blue was not in this part of the text. Ali put it into the end. And when I was reading this application and I finally got the idea, I decided that it should be put it upper. It's better according to this technique, as of course you can change some parts, but the most logical thing is when you put situation first, the second will task, action, and result. Let's read the task, and the task is means that by this letter, Ali was not applying for a job, but he was looking for a cooperation. And this is the main idea. And this is the good to put it somewhere high of your application. Later, further in his application, he's describing his activity. For example, his activity in research work. He starts with the part when he sent his research work to some different competitions and was nominated. The part when he describes that he was nominated means result part. As you can see, there are not only one section, action, result. You can give more than one example, and it's good to give more than one examples in one application form, but not too much. Even if you have a huge experience, choose the most valuable, but also let know your students that recruiters and members of different contest committees, they do not expect applicants to be a Nobel Prize winners. They don't expect them to be world champions. It's better to keep simple, and it's better to describe simple everyday situations that give you some experience that can be useful for you. For example, here in the second part, Ali described the situation when he was a member, a president of Kharkiv Polytechnic Institute SP student chapter, and the action considered as sharing experience and gaining knowledge in close contact with industry professionals. And as a result of this action, the achievement was in the negotiations with Schlumberger helped provided students with 10 licenses of their highly intelligent software, pipes, steam, and petrol eclipse. And then we see that in addition, there is also another action and result situation, the third one, when Ali was an assistant to his lectures, and he came to the conclusion that this experience gave him excellent communication skills. That's also a good conclusion made. And there is also, as I have highlighted, a subtask in this in his application, that he wants to increase the number of static simulators, and the expected result of this task will be access to production data. And as you can see, this abstract, the task, as I have already mentioned, this should be put it upper, as I put it on the top of the application, because it's a general task, and this subtask describes more not such a general task, but very concrete task. And as I mentioned, to make it clearer to committee members, one could mention that this result is expected to be gained also through networking during the conference. As you know, the price for applicants will be attending of the conference, so you should be more. You should make it more clear to those who are reading your applications. So this is one application that was a winner, and let's see another one. This example was not shortlisted, and now you will see why. Please notice that this example is given in the author's edition, unchanged. English is far from perfect, and this is maybe the first thing that your students should notice, that they should give their application form for proofreading. Of course, not ask someone to write it instead of a student, but just check spelling. Okay, let's get down to it. The first part is the kind of introduction, and in this introduction, what is the most upsetting for me was this phrase that's in the second abstract. I have found it in more than 10 applications. I don't know who was the first who started citing Mendeleev. I don't know who was the first who decided to put down this abstract in this way, in different ways, but the idea was in many applications that even baking bread requires a lot of heat, which is obtained by burning gas, so different variation of this. And it's not a deal for committee members. It's not their problem to guess who was the first. This gives an impression of cheating, unfortunately. So this was upsetting, and that was one of the reasons why this application was not shortlisted. Let's look further at this application. Here were some attempts to use star approach to find out some actions and results. The most common and understandable was the first one, when having passed the exams and gained the right to study on a budgetary basis. That's good that the student decided to write about this. But the next one, when he writes about being on an introductory practice this year in Gadich and Abadivka, and there are only emotions here. There is no result. There is no result in this abstract, and it's a good practice, it's a good experience for a student, but these explanations would be turned into result part. For example, the student could write that he decided to enter additional course for learning, I don't know, for learning drill beats, for example, or he decided to read a book, or he have already read a book or something like that. Maybe it even was so, but I can't see it here in his application. It's one of the reasons why it was not selected. By the way, at the end of the application form, the expected result is pretty clear. Even it has spelling mistakes that should be avoided, but it's clear, but it doesn't help in this situation. And the next example of application form that I want to show you also has all that parts of STAR technique, or STAR approach, but it also is a good example of using a Meta pyramid principle. Let's look at it. Here I highlighted some principles why the previous application form was not selected. It has the lack of structure, it was too emotional, it needed spelling check, and there were signs of cheating. And now let's get down to Yulia's application. It was given in Ukrainian, and I have translated just several sentences. Let's look at it. In the first part, Yulia begins with a situation, describing who is she, what is her position at the university, and she, at the beginning, highlighted the main idea of their application, that she is interested in attending the Frost New Folk Kyiv LLC conference, both from a cognitive and professional point of view. And this is also can be considered as a task for the situation that is described here and here. And it can be considered as a general idea of their application form, the general idea of the contest at all. It is very good that it is given at the beginning. This approach to give the key idea of your application at the beginning is given in Meta pyramid approach. Further in your application, you should support this idea by giving some examples, by giving some ideas, and Yulia does so. She's describing her actions as a teacher. She's trying to use approach that take into account the current requirements of oil and gas industry in terms of environmental and human safety, environmental expertise, and in addition, she gave another supporting argument to the first idea, to the task, that she's also interested in management approaches to the organization of environmental policy at oil and gas companies. And then she refers to the main idea again, mentioning the conference and her task. And she finally comes to the expected results, that she planned to use the gained information for teaching her students. In this part and the second part, she is going to use the gained knowledge, the gained experience to broaden her horizons, to adopt the experience and knowledge for professionals in her field. These arguments support the first idea. The first idea that it is the participation in the conference is useful for her in a cognitive and professional way. Here we see supporting arguments, and it's clear and it's obvious. So that's why that was a good, the good example, and this application won the prize. I want to ask Yulia if she is here now, if she had read Meta pyramid principle.
Yes, I'm here. I'm glad to hear all participants of this webinar. Actually, I haven't read about this approach, but I use universal approach to build your motivation letter or statement of purpose that I used for prepared an application form for universities. When you prepare your application form to start your process to apply to some universities abroad, actually.
Mm-hmm. So I should say that is a good example for of an application, and I guess that you used some principles unconsciously, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, and I highly recommend to read the book of where is it? Barbara Minto. I will show it later. Minto pyramid principle. I should warn you that it's not an easy, but it gives you some basic principles for writing different documents, not only application forms. They are getting more clearly, they are getting structured, and it's very important then your documents are considered. So I highly recommend it to you, to everyone who is here, and I will give you some very basic ideas from it that were actually used in US application and in some other applications too. First, as I have already told, the general idea should be placed on the top. And then it should be supported by arguments, by several arguments, and it can be detailed. You can use the structure, you can use supporting structure in chronological order. You can compare one part with another one, but it should have some logic. And as for, there is also, maybe you have heard, there are some magical numbers that 3 to 7, that means that the reader can keep in mind no more than 7 ideas at once. So if you have many achievements, don't put them all into your application form. Choose 3 to 7 achievements. Choose 3 to 7 supporting arguments. It will do. Here you can see how the structure of Minto pyramid looks like. That's what I saw in ULES application form, in Ali application form too, after I put it the main argument on the top. There were several supporting ideas, 3 or 2, and the conclusion at the end. That's a good idea to use this approach. So let's proceed to covering letters. First of all, what I want to say that we have already discussed 2 tools that can help you not only in motivation letters, but you can use them in your covering letters. I guess you know what is covering letters. That's a text that accompanies your CV when you are sending it to a job, or to an internship, or to the educational course, and so on and so forth. Let's see on its structure first. It also has a certain structure, and it's a classical structure. When you are applying for a job, you should keep the structure. Better to keep it. You should have contact details in your covering letter. Start it with a short introduction. We will see later that it's pretty easy. And the core part of your covering letter is you should describe why you'd like this particular job, why you'd like this particular research opportunity, or why you like this particular organization. Very important. And before you approach this part, you should do research. You should find as much as possible about the organization you are applying for. You should find as much as possible about the university where you are applying for, and about the organizers of the contest, for example, about their aims, about their culture. So it will help you to find the most impressive supporting arguments to decide that your application is the best and that you are the best candidate for a job, for example. And you should use a positive conclusion in your covering letter. Let's look at the example. It's an example that I have found at the University of Sheffield. A very good one, pretty simple. And the first that you should notice is structure. Here in the first abstract, you can see that as we started, the first part is the contact details. Don't miss it because being a recruiter, I should say that it's not very easy to find contact details. Then you don't put it on your cover letters, or even you don't put it in your resume. Even such cases happened. So don't forget about it, about this first part. And then you should use introduction. Introduction is can be organized, can be just from the position that you are applying for. Just repeat it in the first sentence, so you can start with it. I would like to apply for the job of marketing assistant in the Crown View Hotels Sheffield, as advertised by the University of Sheffield student job shop. It's very easy. You don't have to invent something new. Just repeat the situation. Just repeat what you are doing. And the second abstract is about yourself, about your short background, why you are interested in this job, why you are interested in this proposition. And later we can explain why we are interested in this particular organization and this particular job. Here you can find that in this application, the person is started with describing the required, describing his skills that are required for this position. And as I remember, here were mentioned some volunteering work, so don't forget about it. If you have good examples of your volunteering experience, I know that many companies like this experience, and it's very useful for students who don't have very wide life experience nowadays. And at the end, you should, there is here in this application, there is some compliments for the hotel, for the organization that invites students for a job. To do this in proper way, you should do research, as I told you before. Here we can see that the applicant writes, I'm keen to work for the world's leading hotel group. So you should, to write this, you should know that this is a world leading hotel group. And he was interested in the information that he received when talking to college. At recent part-time job. here is it. Your organization approach to staff support and development through the Go Ahead scheme was particularly impressive. So to get to know this this particular information, you should research about the organization. You should know that you should know more about the culture of the organization. You should know about their programs, how do they treat their staff, so you can mention it in your application form, and it is highly appreciated by recruiters. And as it was proposed at the end of the application form, use positive conclusion. Here is it. Please find enclosed a copy of my CV, and I look forward to discussing this further if I'm invited to interview. Actually, the previous abstract is also very positive, and as I said, it will be highly appreciated by recruiters. So here was an example of covering letter. According to my experience in our country, covering letters are not very popular. Unfortunately, I know that, of course, it can differ from industry to industry, but it's not very common for our employers. But let's look for what purposes you can use it, and I guess it will help you not to forget about the covering letters when you are applying for a job. You can use it not only for highlighting your achievements, but it's also important, but you can also explain to the recruiters some gaps in your career. Most of our employers in our country, everywhere, have some gaps in their resume, in their CV, because they were between jobs. And you can explain why this happened and what you were doing during this time. It's very important because it will show you from the best side, because you can tell that you were, for example, were listening lectures on IPL platform, for example, or you were keen on sport at this time. For companies that pay attention to employers' health, it will be important. So don't miss this opportunity. And as we have already discussed, show the awareness about the company or the university. Find out as much as possible information about the organization, and find the information that is important to you, and underline it in your arguments, describing why this company is good for you and why you are good for this company. And of course, give relevant success stories. Your success stories in covering letters can be discussed, can be described in the way that we have already discussed, we have already learned. This is a STAR approach. I highly recommend you to use it in your application forms and in your covering letters too. So we came to the end of the lecture. And I highly recommend you to practice. If you will have any questions, if you would like to have a feedback on your applications, you can direct mail me on Facebook. I can't give you answers on using English because I'm not native at all, and I need by myself some consultancy on it. But I can give you some feedback on structure and some maybe ideas on what achievements to highlight. So thank you for your attention. And if you have questions, you're welcome. Well, I see there are no questions. So See you on other lectures. Keep learning, stay safe, and stay home. Thank you for your attention again. Мне тут есть что-то в чате, да? Thank you for your new experience and knowledge. It was really great and professional. Thank you very much, Alexandra. Thank you. Yulia, thank you too. Thank you for coming. Сергій, дякую. Також дякую.
Да, спасибо большое, Инночка. Я думаю, что какие-то дополнительные вопросы уже могут появиться в процессе, когда ребята будут там пересматривать на YouTube видео. Я думаю, что они смогут найти и вам задать вопросы лично.
Да, я как раз приветствую, чтобы обращались, мы сможем это обсудить. И, насколько я знаю, просто ребята, студенты могут иногда не понимать, о чем вообще писать. И я думаю, теперь вот преподаватели, кто присутствовал здесь, смогут подсказать. Ну и, соответственно, я тоже буду очень рада.
Это были очень хорошие практические навыки, не только для студентов.
Рада слышать. Юлия Дяченко, спасибо вам тоже, что пришли.
Пожалуйста, я очень рада вас слышать, Инна, вы молодец.
Спасибо,
Очень рада была поучаствовать. Спасибо.
Да, вам спасибо.